Vampires. Sexy. Dangerous.
Hey kids, want to see a dead body?
And once upon a time, capable of being taken somewhat seriously.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Until this.
This is what I am.
Ignoring all that sparkly crap, V-Rising has tried to restore some semblance of respectability to the genre as a top-down open-world survival game.
Really? Really? Really?
Which of course we played the hell out of so we could review it and bring our own usually unwelcome view on the game, particularly from the co-op perspective. Frank the Vampire, hello baby.
Technically still in early access on Steam, V-Rising sees you take control of a reawakened vamp straight out of the box. With a view to retaking the world which once belonged to your kind before those pesky, tasty humans got all uppity about you using them as cattle and came at you in the usual mob with torches routine.
Got stabbed by a pitchfork the other weekend, Frank.
People are just racist, Ashley. So what's it like to be an immortal bloodsucker? Ashley, you're burning.
I know, Frank. I know. This life has been a real discovery for me, Frank.
How did we get here?
It just sucks. You were 3 days away from retirement, Frank.
And I got turned into a vampire. Who would have thought of something bad happening 3 days away from retirement for a cop?
You can't write this stuff, Frank.
You just couldn't, Ashley.
You just couldn't.
No fiction writer
You
could keep up
really
with this.
couldn't.
And will Ashley ever forgive Frank for dragging her into undeath with him?
Cheers for inviting me. You
I didn't
fucker.
give you an option, Ashley.
Probably not, but at least we can have fun in our vampiric clan together.
Retire before
Everything was dark.
3 days before you retire. Oh, damn it. First thing to say about V-Rising is that if you're a fan of vampire fiction, which doesn't include anything from the deranged mind of Stephanie Meyer, then you're in for a happy shock. Here, vampires are powerful, scheming predators of the night.
Oh, I'm getting garlicked. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, a lot of cotton farms have garlic. Apparently vampires are regular pests to cotton farming. With a host of abilities to bend,
Your mind is mine to control.
or break mortals as they see fit.
She's following you right in.
Oh, I
so...
know. She just died. Sorry, lady, you were going to be Frank's sex slave forever. I've had a cannon already brewing in my head for his uses for you. And a load of forms which alter play dramatically. Hey Ashley, look, I'm chasing my tail. Just like we did as detectives our whole lives. This isn't a mindless power fantasy, however. Those cool abilities all come at a cost.
As a wolf, where you stash that stuff?
Shush. Don't ask, Ashley. You don't want to know. Requiring you to manage your resources well against tougher opponents in order to prevail.
If you don't really give a damn about vampire lore, it's a fairly fresh take on a lot of the overused survival mechanics too. Sure, you'll have to grind, but much of the stuff you want comes from murderous rampages.
No, I will not leave you alone.
You gotta say that as Frank.
No, I will not leave you alone, screaming woman.
Rather than constant environmental interaction. Gone is the need to stay warm at night or even to eat and drink, well, water at least. As one of the cursed, you have different needs to survive, on top of the list avoiding being incinerated.
If you're playing this game as a duo on a non-dedicated setup, then overall the things you do need to gather aren't too painful, especially later on once your associates can help. What are we going to call this guy? It's Charlie. And being able to hit multiple things at once, even if this is mostly a psychological thing, takes a little of the tedious sting out of it.
Frank, are you cutting wood or are you jerking off again?
You know I call jerking off cutting wood, Ash. That's just confusing. Say what
But
you
you
mean.
also-
As we said though, there is greater focus on the combat.
Synchronized. That was beautiful, Ashley.
Give me a couple life!
Which is fast and fluid. Limited loadout options force you to keep your brain engaged, even if the dodge mechanics are total BS, and the bloodthirsty theme of your average outing fits being a vampire a lot better than smacking trees relentlessly for hours on end.
It kind of feels like that really shit plot in series, what was it, 3, 4 of Sword Art Online. It's our job to use a sword to cut down this tree for no good reason. No one's ever managed it, but we're expected to spend our whole lives doing it. Why? We don't ask questions.
There are a few exceptions to this, but there'll be plenty of time to rail on the negative stuff later on.
Much like Ark and now Pal Worlds, the additional element of enemies potentially becoming assets does add a little bit more interest too. There's no donuts in your coffin, Charlie.
Yeah,
Ashley's
Frank hates
sister
them
ain't
all.
in there either. A flaming archer may be a threat, but if they have nice blood, they could also make a good tasty snack or even ally.
Wake him up!
To be treated as they deserve. Hey Charlie, you know you're level 0. You're a 0, Charlie.
You're a zero,
You're a
Charlie.
fucking 0.
Graphically, the game looks quite pretty, featuring a simple, slightly cartoonish style which should prevent it from dating too badly. The sound effects aren't bad either and add decent impact to your actions.
The map itself is nicely crafted with nearly no copy pasta and is something close to a living world. Animals and human mobs of various factions will often fight each other and can sometimes be manipulated into doing your dirty work for you, like he's kind of following her just outside her aggro range. That's what we call stalking, Krieg. If I have to go to class is over, it's so do you. It's filled with points of interest which reward exploration with rich farming areas for either you or your minions to gather the stuff you're going to need.
As you might imagine, the day-night cycle is a pretty important mechanic in the game, what with your natural aversion to sunlight.
You're going to start burning in a second, Ashley.
Both as a vampire and as a gamer. But this isn't the only factor determining where you will burn. You can in fact operate in the daytime as long as you stick to shade, which changes with the position of the sun and sources of shadow. Daytime is dangerous but brief, requiring you to work around its mechanics most of the time rather than just sitting at home killing nothing but time while you wait for night to fall.
Progression. This one's a bit of an odd bat. There are no XP points in V-Rising. Your level increases by improving your gear only, and that level really does matter. Enemies even a couple of levels above you will give you a really hard time, so your main focus will be on getting the shiniest gear you can. Oh, I like that, Ashley.
I was gonna say, you're gonna really like that, aren't you?
To unlock new abilities though, you will have to sniff out
Wow, Frank, you smell.
You always say that, Ashley, and I don't see how today is any different.
the toughest prey. Essentially bosses, but here called V-Blood targets, these gatekeep all the cool spells and technology until you find, beat, and drink them to steal their tasty capabilities.
Dance for me.
Hey, I said that to Ashlyn once.
There are a wide range of forms of skills for you to pick from, though you do have very limited slots for spells. Clearly the devs were somewhat averse to locking your progression behind an XP bar, and this system seems to at least fit being a vampire, even if it does have some pretty serious drawbacks for us to talk about later.
You can't always get what you want, sometimes you just get this.
Weapon types are quite varied, and although they take a while to collect, they do often contribute different styles of play. You want to touch tips?
Yeah, let's touch tips. Oh, yeah.
That feels good. I bet that's making people uncomfortable. Allowing a further degree of variety to your vampire's build in many cases. Actually, no, I'm a vampire. I'm just running around here shooting at things. Could just be American.
As you might expect, you will be crafting all of these implements of death in your very own gothic castle, complete with gargoyles and valued thralls.
Not going to be much of a defender. But you never were, Charlie! None of the people or the peace. Or Ashley's sister.
Building it isn't the worst slog. The build system is pretty simple. Materials are fully refunded when you change things around, and tech unlocks give regular reasons to update, improve, and add new facilities.
Consider the concept in a proper vampire movie of the vampire risking sunlight to quickly go tend their garden. As an added bonus to remove just a bit more of the usual survival game tedium, V-Rising also features a function for offloading quickly and simply that we'll just dub the handy button, because it has different names in every game we've seen it, and in this case is a crap Sesame Street joke. It's almost like someone worked out that it's not fun to have to go through about 15 boxes 20 times over, checking which bits go in which.
There's a fairly good range of settings when you start your game to customize your experience, but we played basically default to keep things simple and to see how the mechanics affected gameplay. In hindsight, we would recommend switching off the limits on fast traveling with items if you're playing as a co-op group though.
Oh my god, yeah, I probably picked up some fucking wool thread, didn't I? Everyone knows you can't teleport with wool thread on you.
We can see the reason for this being a thing on PvP servers, but it only serves to slow down the game otherwise.
All of this shapes up into a respectable, somewhat different entry to the oversaturated survival market, and if that's all we chose to look at, we would probably say that V-Rising is a great game. However,
Here's an old trick.
I cannot dodge
that's
over the
not an
stuff.
old trick, that's bullshit.
Yeah, this is where we start shitting on yet another game we wanted to like.
For a start, there is basically no story at all. We can live with that though, especially in a survival game where, as you may know from our grounded video, that you didn't watch because nobody did, we do not like to see elements forcing a linear progression.
You are just a treat.
So you may be as saddened as us to hear that although the plot doesn't force it, this game also shoves you into a pretty linear progression anyway.
Bitch, I eat people!
Zones have very definite level ranges. V-Blood targets have levels too and basically force you to take them on in a certain order. V-Rising presents you with the illusion of open world freedom.
What do you mean?
But in practice, you have nothing of the sort.
That's all you have to do!
There was a co-op duo on a non-dedicated server. We didn't find the grind too bad. We have to point out that this dynamic changes hugely if you play on dedicated servers instead. There, the grind could easily be crippling, what with your castle being quite literally more bloodthirsty than its occupants. It requires blood essence gathered from kills to prevent it from crumbling, and it'll be burning through it 24/7. Clearly a mechanic designed to prevent clutter, also one which requires you logging in very regularly to feed the hungry slab of stone.
Starting the game as a duo wasn't the easiest thing either. Very little is explained to you when you start, including how to save your progress.
You can leave as far as I know it is saved, but again, there's no visual confirmation, so I don't know how I'm supposed to fucking know.
We had trouble first working out how to join each other, further complicated by connection problems when trying to play over LAN.
Reason connection time down. It's my server! How do I disconnect from my own server? It's being hosted on my PC. More egregiously though, we now get to those V-Blood targets who have some real problems. Not only will their limited voice lines drive you into a blood rage IRL,
Hammer you out! Hammer you out! Hammer you out!
that line's getting annoying already,
Tools for the job!
because you've recorded it in two different ways, but it's the same line.
Hammer you out!
Yeah, I get it.
Hammer you out! Hammer you out!
Ow. Not only will their random decisions to reset mid-fight make you spit that blood all over your monitor. What? He's running off to reset. He just reset.
Yeah, I just saw that. That fucking
Just
bullshit.
reset. That is absolute bullshit. We're still in his arena. I was really close to him. What the fuck? But after the first 30 or 40 of the damn things, you'll be getting seriously repetitive vibes. Because they are. Design here is unimaginative and lacks enough variety to keep them interesting for very long at all.
Quite aside from all of that, their difficulty begins to feel like straight up bullshit after a while, in a game where you can only dodge once every 8 seconds, and many of those dickheads can throw out a screen wiping attack every 3 to 4.
Joe.
Yeah, my dodge was on cooldown as per fucking usual.
Look, you can only move quickly once every 8 seconds, just like a real person.
Frankly,
Hello, baby.
this contributes to the game feeling a bit clunky at times, and also goes some way to explaining how your all-powerful creature of the night can literally get bodied by a moose.
Thanks to the lack of XP system and the fact that they gatekeep all the better equipment you need, there's usually no way to level up to make them a bit easier if you're struggling either. There is only one set of armor per area with a slightly improved reskin version if you collect the books to make it. I took a crochet course actually.
Yeah, there was that time you
Just
took that
adding to
crochet
Frank's
course
canon now.
as part of your Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes, that would be the reason. Yes, that would be the reason, Ashley. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that, Frank?
I do now, Ashley, yes. When we said the game is oddly linear for an allegedly open world, well, this is what we meant.
What about those spells though? Also held hostage by the same targets you'll want to use them against. Moreover, you may recall in our Baldur's Gate 3 video, which some of you did watch, and you should because it was great, there we said
you had a choice on level up of 40 spells, which all do different things, not just the same thing in different colours.
sorry to say that the exact opposite applies to V Rising. The slight differences that they do have are pretty much just minor flavor effects, which really don't add up to much.
I'm getting a little pissed off with how similar all these spells are, gotta say.
Yeah.
Is that you can actually predict kind of what it'll be in each slot on there based off of what we've seen before. We've plenty of minor gripes with the game too. Camera control is very limited in how far you can zoom out or pan. The music is entirely ignorable. The missing XP system is pointless when you match the mechanic with gear-based progression which functions almost identically.
You would think that your loyal servants
Oh, have you checked on your pets?
I imagine they're unhappy and anemic. as usual.
Could maybe help out a bit somehow, but their uses are actually incredibly limited. They can either function as depressed blood sacs,
And she's on 18% misery, and I bet that's Charlie's fault.
or home defense / material gatherers, but there is no way to have them join you as a bit of additional cannon fodder in a hard fight, which we totally would have done with one of them in particular.
We might have to kill Charlie. On top of all that, some stuff just doesn't seem, well, right. How did that hit me? Someone want to explain that? I was mid-air behind him by the time his shot landed. A bell-ringing loudmouth can alert a whole town to your presence, but then... Okay, the guards didn't hear me, actually. I'm being very stealthy. Fishing is its own whole kettle of twisted misery. Fish are about the least likely thing you'll ever fish up. From which I got a regular amethyst, my god. Merciless iron axes. Great.
You know what they say? Iron axe in the hand is better than 2 iron ingots in your fishing basket.
I'll have to think about that one, actually. But I think you're talking shit. 2 more iron ingots.
Well, you know what they say.
Shut up,
2
Ashley.
more.
And you need them to keep those miserable gits at home from sinking into a fatal pit of depression. I'm going to feed a sagefish to our best blood dude. Because he's so miserable.
I think he's going to need a little bit more than fish, Frank. He might need some counselling.
Well, he's getting fish and that's it.
Other stuff is just plain inconsistent.
So, quick question, developers, who won't be watching. Why is it I can access all of our boxes and inventory and open doors and stuff as a walls, but not the enemies?
Or perhaps you'll like what we're going to dub dev maths.
The empty canisters in this fabricator have a base duration for refinement of 1 minute. It being in a confined castle room should reduce that by 25%. Can you tell me, with your amazing intellect and mathematical skills, how many seconds it should therefore take?
45 seconds then.
Yes. Unfortunately, the developers have not understood this concept, Ashley. And it's 48 seconds, which is 20% off the time, not 25%.
Well, I want my money back.
Yeah, me too. Look, there you go, 48 seconds, everybody, right there.
Short version is that there are tons of minor but frequent annoyances in V-Rising.
What? Lag spike and suddenly I'm on fire. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Eventually it all comes down to how much fun you have with it, though. Hello, fellow humans. I am the human man too. So we're particularly sad to say that in the end, the game loop here just gets repetitive and boring. It's a linear grind of kill boss, get the stuff you need to make the stuff you learned, go kill the next boss, rinse and repeat until you get to the next area, where you'll just do the same thing again and again. Moreover, the later areas seem to offer less and less to do in them.
And I guess that really is our conclusion for V-Rising, a reasonably good base marred by a lack of creativity and variety.
Of course, if you don't mind a linear, hand-holdy survival game which doesn't require much thought to play, then maybe you will find some fun here. But in our opinion, there are several far more interesting alternatives, they just don't involve vampires.
I feel a chill coming on.
Fuck's sake.
I feel a chill coming on.
There's a really good line, dude, who says the more